everybody. This is City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today I have a scrapbook layout process video for you, and for this layout I'm using my June My Creative Scrapbook kit, and the paper that I'm cutting apart right now, that's from the Simple Stories Simple Vintage Garden District collection, and it's such a beautiful collection. The colors are just fantastic. And the background piece of paper is from the 49 and Market Modern Romance collection. So as you can see, I'm making a grid layout. I have the 4 squares. They're 4 by 4 inch squares. And I have photos in 2 of the squares. I took these pictures on my daughter's graduation weekend. And I'll explain a little bit more about the photos in a bit. This is the background piece of paper, and I'm just coating it with clear gesso because it has some beautiful patterns on the background. They're very faint, but they're very pretty. So I didn't want to cover those up, so I used clear gesso. Now I'm using my Vicky Bouton texture paste, and I'm using it through a stencil. That's a Paige Evans design, and I just cut it out of plastic so I could use it as a stencil. So I'm not going to do a lot of mixed media in the background today. The background is subtle. I just wanted to add a little bit more texture and a little bit more interest to the background. So I'm just putting some splatters in pink, and also now I'm adding some green. I didn't want there to be too much color. I thought it would detract from the other papers. And now I'm also adding some white acrylic paint splatters to the background and drying it off with my heat tool. So that's going to be the background. I'm now using those cut aparts that I cut out, and I'm layering them, and I spend a long time layering them behind the photos. And behind that lower right hand corner I have a journaling card, and I'm going to be using that for my title and then also some journaling. So I'm trying to make everything balanced. I want to have the colors balanced. I want to have the number of papers behind each of those cards balanced. And I'm just kind of futzing around with all of those cards to try to get everything to look good and look balanced. So I had that doily that I just put on the lower left. I had sprayed that and put it in my stash of doilies a long time ago, and I thought that it matched really well with the papers. I also had those torn papers from another layout. I didn't end up using them, so I used them together on this layout. And there was a little piece of paper that, it's like a lace design up on top, and that was from one of the punch-out sheets that we received. Now that I have everything where I think I'm going to want it, I took a picture with my phone so I could refer to it later. And I used up most of the chipboard from the chipboard sheet, so I'm just using the leftover chipboard to add some dimension to the cut-apart cards that I have on my layout. And for all of the cut-apart cards and all of the paper that I add to the background, I make all of the edges brown with this little tiny Tim Holtz Distress ink. I'll put the color in the description box. I can't remember off the top of my head what the color was, but I thought that brown color would be perfect just to separate the papers from the background. So here I am going to each cluster. I'm arranging it. I'm trying to offset the papers so that they'll be arranged really nicely. And as I said before, I am adding brown ink to all of the edges. And I love these little ink pads. I know that there's other ways that you can apply the ink, but those little ones are older and they're not super saturated with ink anymore. Mine aren't. And so I feel like they're perfect to just apply the ink right from the ink pad to the edges. So you can see here I'm getting good use out of that chipboard, and I keep rearranging that doily. I like that doily. I like the color of it. I think it goes well with the background, but I keep fussing with it. So These pictures are pictures that I took when we took my daughter out to lunch after her graduation. They were taken of her favorite foods at her favorite restaurant called Red Fern. And although she has been back to the restaurant, I knew that she wouldn't be going there so much anymore. So we wanted to document her favorite meals, and excuse my head in the picture. And so we took pictures of two of her favorite things to eat there. I feel that something that's really key to a grid layout looking good is to make sure that everything is properly spaced and aligned. So I do spend a decent amount of time making sure that I have each of those 4 clusters in the right spot. And I felt that I had the doily sticking out too far on both of those clusters, so I had to tear them out and put them back in again. And please excuse my head. It does appear a lot in this video. I did cut out a lot of footage of my head, but I'm sorry, some of it still remains. So everything seems to be aligned, and that doily finally came out, and I used the other half of it. I'm just using my ATG gun and my ATG adhesive to back everything, and adding a little bit more paper over here to make sure that it's balanced, and making sure that I added the ink to the edge of that new paper, and ruffling up these little torn pieces. I had torn those out for another layout, didn't end up using them, but I thought they looked really, really good on the bottom of this particular layout. So I don't know if I would have thought to do that, but I was glad I had those already ready to go. And now I'm using that picture that I took earlier to try to remember where I put all of my embellishments, but I'll still move them around a bit. I feel that I just use the photo that I take as a starting point, and then I will move things around if I don't feel that things look balanced. And I do spend quite a bit of time moving those butterflies around the page. There were so many pretty butterflies. There were die-cut butterflies and chipboard butterflies, and they were such pretty colors. So I did move them around the page quite a bit. I like the way the one in the center joins the 4 quadrants together. If possible, I do like to try doing that when I do a grid layout. I like to have some of the areas that are joined together by either a banner or some kind of embellishment. And now I'm starting to place my title down on the page. And it's going to be favorite place. And I found these letters in my stash. I thought they were just the right color. One thing about these letters, though, they didn't really like to be peeled up and put back down again. I kind of struggled with getting them back in place again after I peeled them up. And I do seem to be peeling them up and then putting them back down several times. So now, in order to make the word favorite, I'm using these little tiny My Mind's Eye pink letters, and I didn't want to show you the whole thing. It took me a little bit. I first attached them to a little tiny strip of paper, and then attach them to my paper, that way, to my page. That way I could move them around if I needed to. And I do spend, again, a very long time moving all these embellishments around. I popped up that butterfly, and I'm looking at it now, and I kind of like that butterfly, but at the time I felt that that butterfly was too big. So I do end up taking that butterfly off and putting a smaller butterfly there, but I actually don't think it looks too bad now that I'm looking at it today. So I'm adding a lot of those little hearts around the page, and I decided I wanted to add a banner on the top, and this banner is a Desire banner. It's called Scalloped Bunting. I saw this many years ago on a YouTube video. When I first started watching YouTube videos, I was constantly buying the things that I saw, and I have to say this is a purchase that I've gotten a lot of use out of. I often just cut one banner out of one piece of cardstock, and then I will go back and cut each individual piece of the banner, and I think that it makes a nice effect to have each of the little parts of the banner a different color or a different pattern. Since I purchased this banner die, I have purchased other banner dies, but this one is by far my favorite. I love the size of it, and I love the way the edges of it are scalloped, and I feel like it's just a perfect addition to a lot of different pages. So this is probably, if not my most used die, one of the most used dies. So here I am just finishing up that last section, and I'm going to be putting this on my layout up at the top with some enamel dots between each of the sections. I glue those little pieces down, and then I attach it to the top of my layout. Once the banner is attached, I add some enamel dots, and I do spend a very long time adding enamel dots, so I don't show you all of that here, but I do move them around quite a bit, and I also move those butterflies around quite a bit until I get them just where I want them. You could say I added a little bee, and now I'm adding a finishing touch. I'm putting some photo corners using an older EK Success photo corner punch, and I also add this phrase sticker. And that completes my layout. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing, and I want to thank my current subscribers. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it inspires you to make something new today, and I'll see everybody again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.